JD and I could meet at all, let alone fall in love and marry, is a testament to this great country.
You won't believe what brought Usha and JD Vance to tears. It all started with their daughter's transformation. From quiet, everyday moments at home to one unforgettable turning point, something shifted in a way that neither of them expected. Their daughter's transformation was not just a physical one, it was emotional and really touching. Usha and JD Vance had witnessed her struggles, her growth, but nothing prepared them for what was about to happen. What happened to their daughter left both mother and father in tears. What could this shocking transformation really be? Was it for good or for bad? Well, that's something we're going to find out. Stay with us as we dive into the details. On January 20th, inside the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C., all eyes were on JD Vance as he prepared to take the oath of office as the 50th Vice President of the United States. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the cameras focused in, the crowd fell silent, and the weight of the moment was almost tangible. But just as the ceremony began, the nation's attention gently shifted, not away from politics entirely, but toward something far more intimate. Nestled in her mother's arms, 3-year-old Mirabelle Vance quietly captured the spotlight. Bundled up in a tiny winter coat, her little fingers adorned with cartoon-themed band-aids, Mirabelle sucked her thumb, blissfully unaware of the historic scene unfolding around her. As the public and press braced for the usual solemn proceedings, they instead found themselves charmed by the innocence of the youngest Vance. Her simple, unaffected presence brought a tender lightness to an otherwise weighty day, creating a moment that lingered far beyond the formal steps of the Capitol. Social media exploded almost immediately. "We are all Mirabelle today," one user quipped, while another dubbed her America's sweetheart in band-aids. Memes, GIFs, and short clips of her calm, unbothered demeanor quickly spread across timelines. But it wasn't just her cuteness that struck a chord, it was how completely unfazed she remained amidst the chaos. The vice president's oath, the sea of formal suits, the flash of cameras, none of it interrupted her tiny, familiar routine. Standing beside JD Vance was his wife, Usha Vance, balancing both their daughter and the Bible used for the swearing-in ceremony. She wore a soft pink Oscar de la Renta coat, her shoulders gracefully framed by a delicate scarf, exuding quiet elegance and strength. Just 2 nights earlier, she had captivated guests at the vice president's dinner at the National Gallery of Art, stunning in a strapless velvet gown. But here, Usha's focus was solely on Mirabelle, not the flashing cameras or the historic crowd. Their sons, Ewan and Vivek, dressed neatly in matching navy suits and ties, stood close by, their young faces caught between wonder and excitement. As the Vance family stood there, composed yet clearly moved, they offered something rare in the political arena: genuine, unfiltered emotion. And yet, beneath the surface, there was another feeling stirring, subtle at first, but impossible to miss once noticed. JD's voice, steady through most of his speech, wavered slightly when he turned to thank his family. His eyes found Mirabelle again, lingering on her small, familiar face. Later, staffers would recall a quiet moment backstage, JD holding Mirabelle close, his hand resting protectively on her head while Usha gently wiped away a single tear from her cheek. From that moment on, something quietly shifted, not just in how the public perceived the Vance family, but in how the Vances began to carry themselves. At their next public appearance, Mirabelle's look had noticeably changed. Gone were the playful cartoon band-aids. Her outfit was more coordinated, her posture remarkably poised for someone so young. It didn't feel staged exactly, but it was undeniably different. With each step into the public eye, Mirabelle's image evolved, and so too did the careful balance JD and Usha sought between protecting their daughter's innocence and navigating public life. This wasn't simply a toddler growing out of old habits. At her next appearance, Mirabelle showed up immaculately dressed, hair neatly pinned back, clothes pristine, no band-aids, no thumb-sucking. Was this change a natural part of growing up, or the result of deliberate guidance? Was it Mirabelle's own choice, or that of the adults carefully steering her path? Stay with us as we uncover the layers behind the Vance family's evolving public life. Mirabelle wasn't the only Vance child present for her father's historic inauguration. Her brothers, Ewan and Vivek, stood proudly beside her, dressed in matching blue suits and ties, watching as JD Vance was sworn in as one of the youngest vice presidents in American history. While much of the spotlight focused on JD that day, another figure quietly made history: his wife, Usha Vance, who became the first Indian American Second Lady. Usha's path to this moment began far from the political arena. When she met JD, their meeting wasn't just the start of a personal love story, it marked the beginning of a transformation that would reshape JD's life and, in many ways, influence the broader political landscape. JD has often called Usha his spirit guide, a description he does not use lightly. In his 2016 best-selling memoir Hillbilly Elegy, He shared how arriving at Yale Law School weighed heavily on him, burdened by self-doubt and the ghosts of his past. It was Usha who helped him find his footing in a world where he often felt like an outsider. She taught him the small things, like which fork to use at a formal dinner, and the big things, like how to manage the internal storms born from a childhood marked by trauma and instability. Their vastly different upbringings didn't divide them. Instead, they became the foundation of a strong, balanced partnership. Charles Tyler, a former Yale classmate who watched their relationship grow, once described JD and Usha as a perfect blend of opposites, each bringing out the best in the other. While JD wrestled with feelings of not belonging at Yale, Usha instinctively knew how to navigate elite spaces and quietly helped him find his way through the unspoken rules of those circles. Before stepping into the political spotlight, JD's path wound through military service, corporate law, and venture capitalism. Through all of it, Usha remained his constant, a source of strength, reason, and steadfast belief in his potential. When JD launched his long-shot bid for the Senate, it was Usha who worked quietly behind the scenes, managing the demands of motherhood, a high-powered legal career, and the intense pressures of public scrutiny. Her professional achievements are just as striking as her husband's. Usha built a career as a corporate litigator at Munger, Tolles & Olson in San Francisco, a law firm known for its progressive values. Yet she also clerked for some of the most prominent conservative figures in the judiciary, including Chief Justice John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh, before Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court. Like her personal life, Usha's career defies simple political categorization. And through much of JD's rise to public prominence, she chose to stay in the background, quietly shaping the story rather than standing in its center. Friends say Usha's decision to stay out of the spotlight was fueled by a deep desire to shield their 3 young children, then 7, 4, and 3, from the chaos of life on the campaign trail. She rarely spoke publicly, but when she did, her words left a lasting impression. In a Fox News interview and later at the party conference where she introduced JD, Usha offered rare glimpses into their private world. She spoke of a man carrying emotional scars few could see, someone who had to work hard to manage his anger, his insecurities, and the lingering pain of a difficult childhood. She also shared the lighter sides of their life together, mentioning how JD had even adopted parts of her vegetarian lifestyle, learning to cook Indian dishes for their family. Usha was not just standing beside him, she was actively shaping him. JD himself has said she played a critical role in helping him confront the deep-seated rage and confusion he struggled with. In Hillbilly Elegy, he wrote that it was not only about learning to control himself, it was about Usha understanding how to help guide him through it. Their marriage, while deeply rooted in love, is equally built on intellectual respect and the freedom to disagree. Usha has never shied away from voicing her own opinions, even when they did not fully align with JD's more conservative stances. A decade ago, she was a registered Democrat, and she has never pretended to adopt his politics without question. In one interview, she was clear: while their core values overlap, they do not agree on everything, and that has never shaken her faith in his character. That honesty took on even greater importance when old remarks from JD resurfaced in July 2024. Although Usha tends to avoid the spotlight, she is far from the traditional passive political spouse. Within the Trump administration, her influence runs deep. Trusted by the president himself, she has quietly taken on responsibilities that go well beyond the usual ceremonial roles. While the exact nature of her tasks remains confidential, insiders describe her as an essential figure within JD's inner circle, valued for her calm judgment and sharp legal mind. In a political world where partnerships often feel transactional or carefully staged, the relationship between JD and Usha Vance is something different, something deeper. It is a bond shaped by personal growth, mutual respect, and years of navigating life's most complicated terrains together. But have you ever wondered what Usha's childhood was like? Growing up and becoming the Second Lady of the United States of America, well, stay tuned for more explosive details. The Second Lady of the United States of America Usha Bala Chilukuri was born on January 6, 1986 in a suburb of San Diego County, California to Lakshmi and Radhakrishna Krish Chilukuri. Her parents, both Telugu-speaking immigrants from Andhra Pradesh, had moved to the United States in the 1980s to build a new life. Her father, a mechanical engineer trained at IIT Madras, later became a lecturer at San Diego State University, while her mother built a distinguished career as a molecular biologist and eventually rose to the role of provost at the University of California, San Diego. Usha grew up in Rancho Penasquitos, an upper-middle-class neighborhood in San Diego. She attended MT Carmel High School, where she played flute in the school's marching band and graduated in 2003. She has one sister, Shreya. Friends from her early years often described her as a natural leader and a bookworm, someone with a strong sense of purpose even from a young age. Usha went on to attend Yale University, where she graduated summa cum laude in 2007 with a bachelor's degree in history and was elected to Phi Beta Kappa. While at Yale, she was deeply involved in community service, volunteering at local elementary schools, leading a Girl Scouts troop, and serving as editor-in-chief of Our Education, an education policy journal. After college, Usha spent a year in China teaching English and American history at Sun Yat-sen University in Guangzhou as part of the Yale China Teaching Fellowship. She then continued her academic journey overseas, earning a Master of Philosophy in Early Modern History from Clare College, Cambridge as a Gates Cambridge Scholar in 2010. In 2013, Usha earned her Juris Doctor from Yale Law School, where she distinguished herself both academically and through her extracurricular work. She served as the Executive Development Editor of the Yale Law Journal, Managing Editor of the Yale Journal of Law and Technology, and was also an editor for the Yale Law and Policy Review. Beyond her editorial leadership, Usha was deeply involved in hands-on legal work during her time at Yale. She participated in the Supreme Court Advocacy Clinic, the Media Freedom and Information Access Clinic, the Iraqi Refugee Assistance Project, and the Pro Bono Network, building an early track record of public service and impact. JD Vance has often spoken about his admiration for his wife's achievements, describing her as brilliant and way more accomplished than I am. At the Republican National Convention in July 2024, Usha Vance took center stage to deliver the introductory address for her husband JD Vance. Since then, she has played a key role as one of his closest advisors, frequently accompanying him to campaign events and occasionally joining him on stage. Sources suggest that Usha was instrumental in helping JD prepare for the 2024 vice presidential debate. His performance was widely praised, with columnists from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Los Angeles Times declaring him the debate winner. Usha's influence on his strong performance did not go unnoticed, and she received credit for the polished, confident manner in which he presented himself. In November 2024, as JD Vance was elected Vice President of the United States, Usha Vance became the Second Lady of the United States designate. By January 2025, she had made history as the first Asian American, first Indian American, first Telugu, and first Hindu to hold the title of Second Lady. Political analysts have often pointed to Usha as a key influence in her husband's political career. Her support continues to be evident, as she traveled with JD to France and Germany in February 2025. That same month, President Trump appointed Usha to the Board of Trustees for the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. In March 2025, she was selected to lead the U.S. presidential delegation to Italy for the 2025 Special Olympics World Winter Games. Usha's visit to Greenland in March 2025 sparked an unexpected diplomatic controversy. The visit, which had been organized by American Daybreak, a group led by Tom Don, a former Arctic commissioner, was met with sharp criticism from Greenland's Prime Minister, Mute Ejid. He called the visit a provocation and expressed that the United States could no longer be trusted as a reliable ally. The Greenland government condemned the visit as highly aggressive and accused the United States of interfering in Greenland's internal affairs. As Usha Vance embraces her new role on the national stage, attention is turning to her husband, a man whose tough childhood and rise from struggle to power is just as compelling. Keep watching as we dive into the details. James Donald Bowman, known as JD Vance, was born on August 2, 1984, in Middletown, Ohio, where he was also raised. He comes from a Scots-Irish background and was immersed in Appalachian American culture, spending many summers with relatives in Jackson, Kentucky. His parents, Beverly Carroll Akins and Donald Ray Bowman, divorced when he was just a toddler. After being adopted by his mother's third husband, Bob Hamill, JD's mother changed his name to James David Hamill, partly to remove his father's name and preserve an uncle's name, David. He continued to be called JD, and his surname later became Vance after his grandparents took him in as their primary caretaker. JD has been open about the challenges of his childhood, which was marked by poverty and abuse. His mother struggled with substance addiction, and he and his older sister, Lindsay, were mostly raised by their maternal grandparents, James and Bonnie Vance, whom they affectionately called Papa and Mama. After graduating from Middletown High School in 2003, JD enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, where he served as a military journalist with the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing. During his 4 years of service, he was deployed to Iraq in 2005 for 6 months, working in a non-combat role that involved writing articles and taking photographs. He earned the rank of corporal, and his military honors included the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. After leaving the military in 2007, JD took advantage of the GI Bill to pursue his studies at Ohio State University, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Philosophy, graduating summa cum laude in 2009. In 2010, he entered Yale Law School, where he quickly distinguished himself, securing a prestigious spot on the Yale Law Journal. During his first year, he was encouraged by Professor Amy Chua to start writing his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. At Yale, JD also formed a connection with entrepreneur Peter Thiel after attending one of his talks in 2011. In the same period, he wrote for the From Forum website under the name J.D. Hamill. Although JD's memoir suggests he adopted his grandparents' surname of Vance upon his marriage in 2014, in reality, the name change occurred in April 2013, just as he was about to graduate from Yale. He received his Juris Doctor degree in May 2013. After completing law school, J.D. Vance worked for Republican Senator John Cornyn before spending a year as a law clerk for Judge David Bunning of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Kentucky. He then moved to Sidley Austin, a prominent law firm, beginning a brief stint as a corporate lawyer. After practicing law for just under 2 years, Vance shifted his career toward the technology sector, relocating to San Francisco to work as a venture capitalist. Between 2016 and 2017, he served as a principal at Peter Thiel's venture capital firm, Mithril Capital. In June 2016, HarperCollins published Vance's memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family and culture in crisis. The book delves into the Appalachian culture and the socio-economic struggles of Vance's small-town upbringing. It quickly became a bestseller, landing on the New York Times bestsellers list in 2016 and 2017. The book was also featured in the Times' list of 6 books to help understand Trump's win, and Vance earned recognition as the voice of the Rust Belt in a profile by The Washington Post. However, the book's portrayal of working-class America drew criticism, including from the New Republic, where Sarah Jones accused Vance of being the liberal media's favorite white trash explainer and dismissed the book as reinforcing myths about welfare. Despite the criticism, the success of Hillbilly Elegy catapulted Vance into the social elite's orbit, and he began contributing a column to the New York Times. His encounters with these elites, especially their disdain for the people he grew up with, shaped his political views moving forward. In 2017, Vance joined Revolution LLC, an investment firm founded by Steve Case. There, he worked on expanding the firm's Rise of the Rest initiative, aimed at investing in underserved regions outside of Silicon Valley and New York City. Vance also made contributions as a CNN commentator between 2017 and 2018. In April 2017, it was announced that Ron Howard would direct the film adaptation of Hillbilly Elegy, which was released in select theaters in November 2020 before streaming on Netflix. In 2019, J.D. Vance joined the board of advisors for the With Honor Fund, a super political action committee dedicated to supporting veterans running for political office. From 2020 to 2023, he also served on the board of advisors for American Moment, a networking and training organization for young conservatives linked to Project 2025. That same year, Vance co-founded Rockbridge Network, a conservative political advocacy group, with Chris Buskirk. He also co-founded Narya Capital, a venture capital firm based in Cincinnati, with financial backing from prominent figures such as Peter Thiel, Eric Schmidt, and Mark Andreessen. In 2020, Vance raised $93 million for Narya. Alongside Thiel and former Trump advisor Darren Blanton, he also invested in Rumble, a Canadian online video platform favored by the political right. In December 2016, J.D. Vance announced plans to move to Ohio and expressed interest in either founding a nonprofit or running for office. He went on to establish Our Ohio Renewal, a 501c4 advocacy group focused on education, addiction, and other societal issues he had highlighted in his memoir. By 2017, the nonprofit's advisory board included Keith Humphreys, Jamil Jivani, Yuval Levin, and Sally Saddle. These members remained in their roles until the organization shut down in 2021, having made limited progress. Jivani, who served as the director of law and policy, explained that the nonprofit's work was disrupted by his cancer diagnosis. The organization raised approximately $221,000 in 2017, including an $80,000 donation from Vance, but much of the funds went toward overhead costs and travel expenses. In later years, donations dwindled to under $50,000. During Vance's 2022 United States Senate campaign, Democratic opponent Tim Ryan accused Our Ohio Renewal of being a political tool for Vance, citing reports that the group had paid a Vance political advisor and conducted public opinion polling. Vance denied these claims. Tax filings showed that in its first year, the nonprofit spent more than $63,000 on management services provided by Jai Chabria, the executive director, who also served as Vance's top political advisor, while only a fraction of the funds went toward addressing substance addiction. But what was his political career like? Keep watching. In early 2018, JD Vance weighed a run for the U.S. Senate against Sherrod Brown but ultimately decided against it. By March 2021, however, momentum for a political campaign was building. Peter Thiel contributed $10 million to Protect Ohio Values, a super PAC formed that February to back a potential Vance candidacy, with Robert Mercer also making an undisclosed donation. In April, Vance publicly signaled his interest in running for the seat Rob Portman was vacating, and by May, he had launched an exploratory committee. On July 1, 2021, Vance officially entered the race for U.S. Senate in Ohio. He went on to win the Republican primary on May 3, 2022, securing 32% of the vote and defeating several candidates, including Josh Mandel who received 23% and Matt Dolan who received 22%. In the general election on November 8, he defeated Democratic nominee Tim Ryan, earning 53% of the vote to Ryan's 47%. While it was a solid win, Vance's margin lagged behind that of other Ohio Republicans, particularly in the gubernatorial race. Around this time, he also dropped the periods from his initials, switching from JD to JD, as he shifted fully into political life. JD Vance was sworn into the U.S. Senate on January 3, 2023, joining the 118th Congress as Ohio's junior senator. He served in that role until January 3, 2025. By mid-July 2024, Vance had delivered 45 speeches on the Senate floor and sponsored 57 bills, none of which made it through the Senate. He had co-sponsored 288 additional bills, 2 of which passed both chambers but were ultimately vetoed by President Biden. On March 1, 2023, Vance teamed up with Senator Sherrod Brown to introduce bipartisan legislation aimed at preventing train derailments like the one in East Palestine, but the bill failed after struggling to gain support among Republicans. In June 2023, Vance voted against raising the debt ceiling, opposing the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, arguing it would weaken the U.S. military at a critical time with rising threats from China. That summer, Vance partnered with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to introduce legislation that would make providing gender-affirming care to minors a federal crime, carrying penalties of up to 12 years in prison. In June 2024, he sponsored the Dismantle DEI Act, seeking to eliminate all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, along with any funding for agencies, contractors, and organizations receiving federal support. During his 2024 vice presidential campaign, Vance did not participate in any Senate votes. On January 3, 2025, with the swearing-in of Bernie Moreno, Vance became Ohio's senior senator. A week later, at midnight on January 10, he formally resigned from the Senate ahead of his inauguration as Vice President of the United States. On January 17, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine appointed John Husted to fill the Senate seat Vance vacated. JD Vance has faced so many criticisms and controversies throughout his career. What are these controversies, and how have they affected his political career? Stay tuned as we dive into the details. Not long after JD Vance was announced as Donald Trump's running mate, he came under fire for remarks he made during a 2021 interview on Fox News. In the clip, Vance criticized the Democratic Party, saying the country was being influenced by childless cat ladies who were unhappy with their own lives and wanted to impose that misery on others. The comments, which resurfaced after being posted by MeidasTouch editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski, quickly drew sharp criticism across both mainstream and social media. On July 26, 2024, Vance addressed the controversy during an appearance on The Megyn Kelly Show, stating that his remarks were not meant as an attack on people without children. Instead, he said his point was about the Democratic Party becoming, in his view, hostile to families and children. Vance added that promoting family values and supporting parenthood should be at the core of the Republican platform. Following the controversy surrounding his Fox News interview, more of JD Vance's past comments about people without children began to circulate. In a 2020 podcast, he argued that childlessness can lead to a lack of empathy and suggested it might negatively affect the nation's overall mental stability. After his appearance on Tucker Carlson Tonight, his campaign sent out a fundraising email that mentioned radical childless leaders, echoing the theme of previous remarks. CNN highlighted several other instances where Vance had made pointed criticisms of childless individuals, particularly among Democratic leadership. During a 2021 speech at a leadership event hosted by the Center for Christian Virtue, Vance criticized childless educators, claiming they were attempting to influence children in harmful ways. He singled out Randi Weingarten, head of the American Federation of Teachers, stating that if she wanted to shape young minds, she should first have children of her own. In a March 2021 interview on The Charlie Kirk Show, Vance floated the idea that Americans without children should pay more in taxes than those raising families, arguing that the tax system should incentivize what society values and disincentivize what it does not. Despite this history, in an August 2024 appearance on Face the Nation, Vance advocated for a significant expansion of the child tax credit, from $2,000 to $5,000 per child, even though his fellow Senate Republicans had recently blocked such an expansion. At the time of the vote, Vance had been off the Senate floor due to his vice presidential campaign, dismissing the measure as merely symbolic and unlikely to pass regardless of his presence. In September 2024, JD Vance made headlines for claiming that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were unlawfully draining public resources and contributing to local disorder. He further asserted that there were accounts of pets being stolen and consumed by individuals he said should not be in this country. These claims were later repeated by Donald Trump, including during a presidential debate. However, local authorities in Springfield quickly pushed back, stating there were no credible complaints or verified incidents supporting such accusations, and confirmed that the Haitian immigrants in the area were in the U.S. legally. After the backlash, Vance acknowledged the possibility that the rumors could be unfounded, but encouraged his supporters to continue sharing cat-related memes tied to the story. He later backed similar claims by conservative activist Christopher Rufo, who alleged that African immigrants were eating cats in Dayton. Dayton officials firmly rejected the allegation, stating there was absolutely no evidence, direct or indirect, suggesting that any group, including the city's immigrant population, was involved in such behavior. What are your thoughts on Usha and JD Vance? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.